Slate.
Yeah, thank you, Kenny. Well, I guess the V8's out of the streets of Adelaide. Apart from the Formula Ones, just what the crowd's come to see. Let's have a look at the grid as they go. Thomas Mazzera really blitzed everybody in the Holden with a great time there to take pole. Mark Scaife sits beside him in car 1. Larry Perkins, the winner at Bathurst not so long ago, car 11 on the second row. Glenn Seaton, another Falcon. So you've got Holden and Falcon at that stage in the first 2 rows. John Bow sits there in Dick Johnson's Shell Falcon in 18, then Jimmy Richards. Alan Jones back on row 4 with Wayne Gardner. Peter Brock way back on row 5 with Dunstan. And through they go. Well, Dick, you're not driving. Your car was totaled at Bathurst, and you reckon that you had to give Johnny a ride. It wins for the rest of the year.
Well, actually, John really enjoys the Adelaide street circuit. He goes very, very well indeed on these particular racetracks. So rather than me sort of make a mess of it like I probably did at Bathurst, I thought I'd just come here and sort of give you a hand, Darryl.
Well, it's nice to have your company in our box. And, of course, you won the inaugural touring car race here in 85. You won it again in 87. But Jim Richards, apart from yourself, has won it 5 times.
Well, I guess he was just lucky, wasn't he?
Other winners, Tony Longhurst has won it twice. Larry Perkins, a winner in 88. And Glenn Seaton won it in 1990. So, been a longer. It's always been a great race, this one, and this circuit, it's pretty difficult with these cars.
It is, actually, because most of the time you're in very, very low gears. Like first gear you use twice on every lap on the 2 hairpins, the one off the end of Brabham Straight and the one onto to Pitt Straight. So they're very slow corners, although they seem to be very fast in a Formula 1 car. In a touring car, this is a very, very slow circuit.
And yet they're spectacular, the way they pick the wheels up around here.
Well, they are, because there are a lot of opportunities to pass here, because there's some areas where you must brake very, very heavily indeed, and the car responds very well under brakes. It's a good way to pass.
Okay, green flag ready for a start now. 20 laps. This will be a ripper race. Wait for the green lights. The drag off the front, the 2 Holdens. Seaton sitting in there, Perkins sitting in there, Mazzera on pole. Beside him, Scaife. All set, V8 start to pump off the line. They go, Mazzera gets him a bit sideways, leaves plenty of black rubber, but wins the drag so far. Larry Perkins made a great start too. Comes up into 3rd place, but it's Mazzera Scaife. Then Seaton back in 4th from Perkins. Johnny Bow is up there. Alan Jones with a good start. Through they come and everyone's through safely.
And so far it's a clean run, and they're into the first hard right-hander now. This is a series of right-lefts, which actually are very, very slow. They're in 2nd gear and they run up against the rev limiter. I think you'll find that the 3 Commodores you see in the front will sort of disappear a little bit from the Falcon after about 3 or 4 laps. Jonesy, I see there, is giving Bowie a hell of a hard time.
The Shell car and a Peter Jackson sandwich at the moment. He's got Seaton in front of him and Jones behind him. Johnny Bow will talk to the drivers a little later on as the race settles down. There's Wayne Gardner. He's been pretty special round here. Jimmy Richards, a 5-time winner. Peter Brock making a move as well. But a lot of pressure on Mazzera at the moment. He's up in front. Scaife all over the back of him.
Now it's up to Scaife. Now he will run down behind Gardner, or behind Mazzera, as hard as he can and try and outbrake him at the end of the straight. This is where a lot of the passing goes on. And he tries to pull out, has a bit of a look, but no, Thomas covers his ground.
Thomas driven very, very well here. Of course, at the moment this year, the later part of the year, he's been running the whole dealer team as well as being the #1 driver. A lot of pressure on him, but he's handling this pretty well. Gardner's been going well this weekend too. Scaife wants to win here. Didn't race the Formula Brabham. That car is in the process of being sold, so he's concentrating, just racing the Holden.
And this is the camera from the front of Alan Jones's car, looking at the back of John Bow in the Falcon, and in front of him is Glenn Seaton. Now there's 3 Falcons running nose to tail here, and you can see the first 3 Commodores have pulled out a little bit of a gap, and now we have a gaggle of cars. But I think Wayne Gardner and Jim Richards are the 2 guys to watch.
What about the V8s? How good do they sound round here? Love them. Don't tell me this hasn't been the best touring car season we've had in years.
Without a doubt, it is the best touring car championship we've had for many, many years. The interest has been enormous. The crowd support has been absolutely fantastic. And here's the camera on top of JB's car, which is running right behind Glenn Seaton.
What do you look at now, looking at Seaton's car? You've had a good look at that on the racetrack plenty of times. What about from the commentary box?
Well, what you do here is, this is the telemetry which comes from John's car. Now that shows you exactly how many RPM it's doing, the road speed. It also shows you which gear he's in and the brake when he's got his foot on the brake. So it's been developed in Queensland by Cole Higgins Motorsport, and it's a tremendous innovation to our television coverage.
Well, it really is, isn't it? I mean, somebody's sitting at home, they think you're working the gearbox, you're working the brakes all the time. That's not the case on a circuit like this.
It looks a damn sight easier, Darryl, from where we sit to where it is in the car itself. Because here we are, the guys are side by side. Here's Jimmy Richards made a move over the top of Wayne Gardner there, and that's where the braking manoeuvres will happen there, and one or two other places around the racetrack.
Okay, well, of course, brakes, very important here. These big, heavy cars, I mean, they must be hard on brakes on a circuit like this.
Well, they're very hard on brakes, but the brakes in these cars are absolutely magnificent. I think the package that has been put together has made these cars fantastic to drive. They really stay together, and they really stay on the pace the whole race.
Quick comment on 2 litre. Should we go that way?
I think 2 litre there is a place for 2 litre in this country, but certainly at the moment, these cars are very, very dominant as far as the crowd goes.
Well, I agree with that. We drive Fords and Holdens and their V8s in this country, and we love them. Look at this, Mazira still out in front. Scaife has tried everything he can to get round him. Fabulous dice, 1 and 2. Larry Perkins just desperately trying to stay in touch now in his car, sitting in there behind the Castrol car, Bathurst winner. Then it's Glenn Seaton just coming into shot, as we saw there. So he's dropped off a little bit back and forth, but Mazira, geez, driven well over the last 3 days.
He certainly has. He's done a great job of sort of keeping the Holden team together over the past 4 or 5 months. They've had a few problems early in the piece, but they've overcome them now. They've got the cars running extremely well indeed. And, well, since they've had the midterm homologation, the Commodores have been very, very quick indeed. And I think, you know, a little bit more of a balancing act, and I think next year will be an absolutely blinder. Cams to be able to sort of say, well, I think there's an imbalance, or they don't. And if they don't, well, obviously, I think there's a few cars going to run away.
Well, as you can see, AJ is trying everything he can to get past Johnny Bow. He's been there for some laps down that sandwich. Jimmy Richards moved up, and that's Wayne Gardner in behind him. You talk about good, close, hard racing. This is what it's all about. Have a look at this. You can't get much closer or faster. The V8's absolutely screaming here. Seaton now towing Johnny Bow. Johnny Bow comes up at him and brakes. He won't get him there, but it puts him in a better position up along the straight. Lap 4, plenty of time to go. Let's have a talk and see if we can get onto Alan Jones. AJ, it's Dazza, can you hear me?
Yes, Dazza.
Mate, you're doing a great job there. You can't get close to racing to this, son.
They were just trying to keep up with those Holdens. There's Richo having to go on the inside here. Go away, Richo.
What sort of rubber did you go for, AJ? Have you gone for a harder compound?
Slightly harder compound for this race. Maybe a softer one for tomorrow.
All right, we'll leave you to it because you're in the busy part of the circuit. Come back a little later.
Okay, Daz.
There he is, AJ, hard at work. He was pretty hard at work there.
Well, actually, you gave Bowie a bit of a breather then, because I think he lost a couple of car lengths.
Well, I mean, you pioneered this, talking out of cars. You do it better than anybody in this country. It's got to be the most difficult thing you could do.
Well, it's not that easy. It looks easy, I suppose, but in actual fact, you've really got to be able to concentrate on what you're doing, because if you don't, you can just make one slight mistake, and some guy will be down the inside of you or down the outside of you, and then you just lose concentration. So you lose being able to speak, you lose everything, and your place too.
Johnny Bow, you can see there, came up under brakes again, and Alan Jones has got him. AJ slipped through. So as we talked there, he might have lost a bit of ground, Dick, but he's just picked it back. He's pretty aggressive this year, AJ. He's back in the old style.
Well, he's performing in front of all his old friends here from the Formula One scene, mate, so he's got to make himself look good.
I don't think they've been giving him plenty too.
I bet.
He's been getting plenty, right. So, the Peter Jackson cars now. Jonesy bumps himself up one and he sits in behind his boss, young Glenn Seaton. Jimmy Richards looking to make a move. Here's Scaife again, still trying to get past Thomas Mazira, who is out in front. I'd say Larry Perkins has probably got a little bit because of the fight going on here. That's allowing him to stay in touch.
Well, I think Larry's basically trying to look after his tyres a bit, because these guys are fairly hard at it, and they could do a serious amount of damage to their tyres by about lap 15. And if they do that, I think Larry's in the box seat to be able to just wind them up and say goodbye.
The two Holdens, particularly the Holden cars of Mazira and Gardner, have really been putting a lot of snappy sort of tail-end slides in around this circuit for the 2 days. I mean, I've never seen the cars move around as much as I have in the last 2 qualifying sessions.
No, they certainly set their cars up quite a bit different to most other people, but that's obviously the way they like them. The interesting thing here Darryl, is the fact that there's the first three cars, there's three different tyres on the whole three of them. The first one's got Bridgestone, the second one Yokohama's, and the third one in Lowry has got Dunlop. So it's a good mix.
But the tyre war has been evened out with this new class of car, hasn't it?
Oh, it has been fierce. You know, the tyre war is where a lot of advantages can come from, and obviously Yokohama and Dunlop and also Bridgestone have put an awful lot of work into this series, and it's paying off for them.
So Thomas Mazira still out in front of Mark Scaife. Scaife has closed up a number of times under brakes, but he just hasn't got the grunt to pull up alongside and challenge for the lead. He's just trying to pressure for a mistake, and Thomas is keeping it all together. Larry Perkins just sitting back there in third. Then it comes AJ and Seaton. And now Jimmy Richards made some move there, and also Wayne Gardner has got past your car, car 18.
And so has Jimmy Richards. So obviously Bowie has just made a slight mistake somewhere, and that's all you need to do, and you lose 2 places just like that. Brock's coming up on his tail now too, so he's got his work cut out for him, I'd say.
Oh, AJ throwing a wheel up in the air over the curbs there. He's really flinging it around now, Allen, at the moment. There's Johnny Bow struggling to stay in touch now. Brock's closing in on him pretty quickly. Great dice between the PJ cars, and Jonesy, well, if the boss gets in his way, I'll tell you, give him a tap, no doubt about that.
There's no love lost between anyone.
Gets him. Oh, Jonesy's fired up.
Thank you very much.
What about that for a move? Oh, we're going to talk to him about that.
Well, I don't know about talking to him, Dazzer. I think he must be talking to somebody down here in the pits. I think he's been talking to Ayrton Senna, to be quite honest, because he's doing a magnificent job here. And Glenn Seaton is not that far behind him, because Jimmy Richards is starting to harass Glenn Seaton now.
Well, here we go, AJ. We're looking at a replay of you just diving underneath Glenn Seaton, AJ. Hey, listen, you're fired up.
And Glenn has now just been passed by Jimmy Richards, so it's one of those situations, Dazzle.
Yeah, well, just try Alan again. He's been pretty busy. AJ, we just watched a move that you made on your boss, Glenn Seaton. It was a beauty. Just can't picking up there, AJ. It's
as a matter of fact, Dazzer, I think he's got about as much interest in talking to you as he has of walking to the moon.
No doubt about that, but what about that up on the Ribble strip? Oh, I love it when he does this. This is good stuff from the V8s around here. AJ cranked up and pumped up. Got plenty of competition behind him, though. There he is there, hard at work.
He's having a good look at it too, isn't he? And here goes Jimmy Richards. He's lost him. No, he's got the... That is the typical Jonesy cut your nose off.
Jimmy Richards with a big go. AJ says no way. Well, yellow flags are out.
Scaife's obviously had it coming together with Mazira, and he's had to lose at some stage of the game.
Well, there's been a spin. Scaife has had a spin. He's just recovering from that spin, and that's bumped him back from second. So this is really getting interesting now. Here's a replay of what happened. Here's Scaife going in behind Mazira, has the big lose, and pretty lucky not to hit anything.
I think he's obviously got in there a little bit, and he locked the back brakes up, and that's what happens on a circuit like this, because you're so hard on the brakes in some of those corners, and the car is not really settled, and when the car is unsettled like that, it just tends to lock the rear brakes momentarily, and it puts the car sideways, and they don't have an awful lot of steering lock, these vehicles, and it makes it very, very hard.
Jimmy Richards now, he puts some pressure on AJ, who's running fourth. Scaife is back to third. Larry Perkins is second. Thomas Mazir out in front. This is where the dogfight is, though. The street fight goes on here as AJ tries to come to terms now with Scaife, who has just recovered from his spin. Lap 8, still plenty of time to go out of 20. Look at the crowd here, massive. As we take another look from the front of the car here as we blast up past the start-finish line again. Big crowd in attendance. AJ, you can see the fluid coming out of him. He's working hard
to hyperventilate, Darryl, I think. He's actually... a lot of people don't realise just how hard a work it is to drive one of these touring cars, and especially at Adelaide, because between these walls, the temperature just gets so hot, and inside the car, the temperatures range up around about 70 degrees.
Well, that's it. Jackie Stewart's just come out of the commentary box. I know Jackie doesn't mind looking at the touring cars from time to time. Jackie, I mean, we're seeing a pretty classic battle here. I know that you've seen the 2-litre cars in Britain, but the V8s are all Australian. This is a beauty.
It's amazingly exciting. I mean, a lot of action, particularly in a street course like this. It's very tight. It's great to see Alan Jones doing so well. I mean, it's great to see some of these old timers coming back and getting in there. But I think the most exciting thing round here, Dal, is sitting watching you doing the commentary.
Thanks very much, Lee Jackie. That's Thomas Messier out front. And now we've got cars coming up behind him in a big gaggle. We'll sort all this out. Here's a big challenge going on.
having a go at AJ. I think he might get a bit of a tap here, excuse me.
AJ's not messing around today. He's just get in front and I'll chop your nose straight off or your bonnet. Larry Perkins is closing up on Messier in second place. AJ now up into third place. Not sure about that. We'll pick it up in a minute. There's first. Anyway, that's Messier. That's first. Larry Perkins is definitely second. Is first and second. Larry having a go. Pops up the front wheels of his car as he throws it through the S's.
Actually, Larry's had his car working extremely well since Bathurst. Like, it was magnificent at Bathurst. The car worked very, very well indeed. And it's a credit to him and his guys because Larry's been doing it fairly tough all year. And Thomas, well, his car's worked good ever since he got here. So you see Larry got into a little bit of a slide there because his tyres are obviously getting a little bit slippery.
Coming up into some traffic now. Now, this could be important just where you hit it. You'll probably get them on the straight, which is going to be all right. After 8 laps, it's Messier, Perkins, Scaife, Jones, Richards, Seaton. They're the stop places. So Scaife is third and Jones is fourth. Sorted that out for you.
See, now Thomas would have lost a wee bit of time there just turning into that corner because he couldn't use the whole of the road to get onto the main straight. So his speed down the straight will be affected, which will allow Larry just to get a little bit closer, I think.
See the heat haze coming up. Richards past Jones now. Well,
That's
Jimmy
Scaife.
Richards on the move, is it?
No, it's Mark Scaife who's coming back after his spin. He's obviously got past Alan Jones now and he's heading out trying to get down towards where Jimmy Richards is, which is further down the road. So it's Commodores 1, 2, 3, 4 at this point in time.
See, that's ominous this part of the year, isn't it? I mean, the last race, I know that you're having fun out here because it is the last round, but it's the sort of place you can't go too silly with because if you're going to lose it here, you're bound to hit something.
There's certainly no room for mistakes here because if you make a mistake, normally you pay for it in the way of a concrete wall or a tyre barrier or some such thing as that. Now here's Bowie, he obviously gets, sometimes his glasses get steamed up on him and he gets very cranky about that because he can't see too well, but boy, for a guy with glasses, he drives very well indeed, I tell you. Now this is the telemetry which is coming out of John's car, and as you see, he revs it to 7,500 RPM where the rev limiters are, and it goes up to about 200 k's there and back down again. He's back in the third gear, go up to fourth, and he may just run this out in fourth into fifth, and then back to second for this corner here, hard on the brakes, and accelerate. You've got to play with the throttle out of these corners because the cars do wheel spin, and once they start wheel spinning, they go sideways. So it's all a bit of a balancing act between the steering wheel and using the throttle to steer the car with. And as you see, AJ's car starting to move around at the back a bit. So, you know, the tyres really cop a hell of a pounding around here.
See, the fans are spoiled these days. Isn't it fantastic? I mean, we can sit home and we know what gear you're in, what speed you're doing, when you're on the brakes. I mean, you can't make too many mistakes as a driver these days.
Mate, when you've got so many people riding with you, as a matter of fact, Carol, I can just see myself sitting here. If I'd had about 3 cans of beer, I could beat any one of these guys, don't you reckon?
How many times that's been said Bathurst weekend? Okay, down the Brabham straight again. Hard on the brakes at the end of here because these big cars building up to plenty of speed. Look at them read out.
250 k's.
That's not bad, is it?
No, it's not too bad considering the Formula 1 cars get about 280 odd down here. So, you know, these cars on a good lap will fall around about 256 k's down the straight.
And you can see here, passing here in the back part of the circuit, it's pretty hairy stuff. You've really got a fine line to work with.
Well, if you make a mistake, as I said before, you will pay for it. Now, here's an area where the car is unbalanced. That's why all the skid marks are on the road, because you've got basically one wheel in the air while they're trying to stop the car. Now, out of here is first gear normally. Bowie's using second because obviously the tyres are getting a little bit slippery. But once he gets into second gear, the car will accelerate very well indeed. Now, start jumping curves here, and it will upset the car dramatically to the point where you'll end up over that river strip there. And I've seen 1 or 2 cars get over that one in the past 9 years of the Grand Prix here and make a hell of a mess of it. And this is where you can lose a fair bit of time when you've got to go, oh, here we go.
Change at the lead.
As
Mazira's lost it. He's lost it. The pressure was put on by Larry Perkins.
Has caught him and put some pressure onto him. There's a bit of debris all over the road, and Thomas has obviously had a bit of an off for somehow.
Well, that's a shame because Thomas Mazira really has been going out so well. That yellow flag's a caution flag. The red and yellow flag is the slippery flag with oil. Perkins now has got the lead. You predicted this, Dick, a few laps ago, but I tell you what, he just kept the pressure on him, didn't he?
He certainly did, and Larry obviously sat back and let the front two runners when, here we go.
Here's the replay.
He's had a bit of a lose, and he's banged the wall a little bit, and yeah, poor old Larry copped a bit at the end there, but unfortunately that's what happens in motor racing. As a matter of fact, I can remember myself spinning in exactly the same spot.
That was just pressure, though.
Well, I think it was pressure, and obviously Thomas has chosen a tyre which may be a little bit too soft to do 20 laps, and you'll find that this far into the event, which is about 15 laps or so, I think you'll find that a lot of people's tyres will be getting very second-hand.
9 laps to go. Larry Perkins leads.
Now Larry will just cruise here because I know the tyres that Larry's got on will certainly run 20 laps without any problems at all. So he's got no pressure on him. He'll be able to drive accordingly.
Well, Larry Perkins has had a fantastic year, really. I mean, he got that sponsorship that gave him the kick that he wanted. As we look at Mark Skate, who's had a spin as well, and he's on the chase now after Larry Perkins. That's where the big interest is. But that Castrol money, I mean, that gave Larry the chance to be a bit more competitive. He goes to Bathurst, he wins that in a true racing style, and here he is leading here today.
Well, he's obviously after Bathurst has done his confidence given him an enormous boost because he's in a position now where he's controlling the event, and when you're in that sort of a situation, it makes it an awful lot easier, and good luck to the guy because he's put a very good package together.
Always been a race of attrition, this one in Adelaide. It's a circuit, as we've said so many times during the race. You've got a tippy-toe around. Third place, Jimmy Richards on the move now. And then we've got AJ back in fourth. He's lost a little bit of ground there with Jimmy Richards. Glenn Seaton back into 5th place. So it's sorted itself out a little bit now, but you had a bit of muscle early, though. There was plenty of huff and puff in the early stages. AJ doing the best he can to get hold of Jimmy Richards. But Jimmy's not the easiest bloke to go round.
He's certainly not the easiest guy in the world, I can tell you. And one of the interesting things, I think, Darryl, is the fact that just recently I read in the latest Motorsport News, which is the most informative rag-type paper we have in motorsport in Australia, that it has been noted that Peter Brock will join up with the HRT next year, which would be a very interesting combination.
Well, it's a really big rumour, isn't it? They're saying the mobile money will go in with the HRT. Tom Walkinshaw is considering that offer now. I'm told the decision will be made next week. I've spoken to Peter over here. He's very keen to tie up a game with the official Holden dealer team, and they feel that both the telecom money and the mobile money will make them a far more competitive team.
Well, unless you're properly funded, it's fairly obvious you won't be able to make the grade because it's certainly no more expensive than what we've had in the past in the way of budgets, because those Sierras and certainly the GTR Nissans were very, very expensive cars to run. And maybe this is why probably the 2-litre cars we're a little bit reluctant to be able to get them here, because they're in a situation, I think, you'll find which you would require a budget larger than a 5-litre car to run one successfully. And these cars, like, you don't see many engine blow-ups, you don't see the cars retiring for mechanical reasons. I think it's an absolutely fantastic formula.
No doubt about that. Look at the readout here as they're back on Brabham Straight as the big V8 stretch their legs here in the streets of Adelaide. You can see the revs here on your left, the centre there, the amount of speed they've built up to, and it just really does build up over 200. That's pretty amazing out of these cars that a lot of people just say are dinosaur V8s. They are kidding. These things are mean and lean, and they go.
They're fantastic to drive too, Darryl, I can assure you. But these guys will be starting to get hot now.
There's the lose, yes. The big one. Seaton goes in, and I tell you what, that's almost the same place he lost it last year when he buried it into the tyres. Well, maybe that's another tyre problem, but that was a rather big one.
Well, I was about to say, just before that happened, that I think that Bowie is sort of really looking towards getting onto the back of Glenn here now, because it looks as though his tyres were starting to give him a few little problems. And there he goes and unfortunately has a lose. But I think the good thing is these cars look at this. His tyres, he's just the back he just touches the ripple strip. Once you're in that sort of position, the old NASCAR trick, pull hard left down and just spin the car.
Well, plenty of carnage here and a bit of damage last race of the year. I mean, you don't want to really go home with a garbage bin full of bits. You did that at Bathurst.
Oh, I've been there and done that. I tell you what, all I've got is something to put in the rubbish bin. But here we got Scaife now is starting to make inroads on Perkins, which is fairly good because there's still enough laps for him to be able to catch up and put a fair bit of pressure on Larry. So we could see a hell of a race towards the end here, Darryl.
7 laps to go, and Mark Scaife, who's had a spin in the race, is having a look to do a bit of chasing here. Seaton back into the pits. He's out of the business for the day. For the year, they'll rebuild that one, but there's a bit of damage there. He hit pretty hard. Now, Larry Perkins holding on to a narrow lead at the moment. If anything, Scaife has got back. He's gone again. Well, he's gone again.
Scaife's obviously trying that hard that he's going more off the road than he's staying on it at the moment. But he's obviously, if he can keep his cool, he'll nail Larry. But Larry will now just cruise to the end of the race and get the very deserved win because he's kept it all together.
Well, Mark Scaife been off twice on this circuit. Jimmy Richards, his teammate, closing in behind him, but Jimmy Richards just voted by the magazine you're talking about as Australia's best driver.
Well, Jimmy Richards has been around for a long time. He's an excellent driver, and Scaife's a very good driver too. He's obviously got a lot of fire in his belly at the moment because he's obviously wants to win very much indeed. But you know, when you get in that sort of state of mind, sometimes it can be derogatory to your efforts.
2 Winfield cars now, 1 and 2 running together. Jimmy Richards closing in on Mark Scaife. He's been off twice. Saw a shot of Glenn Seaton back in the pits there with the helmet off, so he's finished. AJ still out there for the PJ team, and you can see Jimmy Richards starting to lift some wheels now. They come on to the faster part of the circuit. And Jimmy Richards, one of the most capable men. It doesn't matter what sort of machinery you put him in, he will look after it and he'll be competitive.
Well, that's what experience is. You know, the guy is a very, very experienced driver. He's been around for such a long time that he's just about had every situation in front of him.
Okay, so in the pits, Charles Stewart's working overtime for us over there. He's with Glenn Seaton.
Thanks, Darryl. Glenn, this is not exactly the way you wanted to finish the race, was it?
No, I don't have a lot of luck here, really, but the car's only just the guards and on the front the same. It hasn't really hit that hard. But around the back there's a ripple strip with big lumps in it, and I just was fighting to try and keep up with them, and really we just got our wheels onto the ripply stuff and it just slid out.
Now, what about Jonesy? He's going pretty hard, isn't he?
Yeah, Jonesy's going very well. I think he's having a big go because Formula 1 stuff's here and he's really keen to do well.
No team orders?
No team orders in this team.
Thanks very much, Glenn.
Thank you.
Yeah, no team orders. It's something that Alan Jones has been very appreciative all year. He said it's the first time since coming back to Australia to race permanently he's had a car that has been equal and he can have a go in.
Well, he's done a very good job of it too. You know, he's had a marvellous season. He came second in the Australian Touring Car Championship, which was something that he obviously wanted to win early in the year. It looked as though he was going to sort of even give Glenn a good run for the championship, but towards the end, I think he had a little bit of bad luck go his way, where he sort of had a couple of little problems, and that let him out of a couple of races. But by Joves, he's sort of making up for it today. He's driving with all the fire and brimstone we've seen him in past years.
Yeah, fantastic to see AJ back and being competitive. And I tell you what, these cars just look so good round these streets. They're lifting wheels, they're wagging their tails, they're power sliding. I mean, you can't get any more spectacular action to me than these sort of vehicles around this sort of track. I know we say it every year, but it's just been a marvellous season. Congratulations to all of the teams who put on such a year for us right around Australia. It's a tough grind, isn't it, when you've got to put all those rounds together.
It is a very tough series to do. The Shell Series is a series of races which really take you all over the countryside, and when you've got to travel 5,500 kilometres over to Perth, which we enjoy doing every year, it's a hell of a drain on the budget and the people concerned, and a very expensive exercise. But you know, Jonesy and all the other teams have put on a hell of a show this year. It's just unfortunate that some of the venues that we went to, that the weather wasn't terribly kind to us.
Yeah. You had some wet stuff, all right. Larry Perkins now comes onto the main straight again with 4 to go. There are the 2 Winfield cars. Can they close the gap and make a real race out of this over the last few laps? Alan Jones just coming onto the straight now, so I mean, we only need a little bit of traffic or so in here, and we'll get an interesting situation. It's Perkins, Scaife, Richards, Jones, Gardner, and Johnny Bow. That's how they line up the top runners for you. Larry doing it pretty easy out in front at the moment, but he knows there's so much pressure coming from the Winfield team right in behind him.
He certainly does. As a matter of fact, as long as Scaife can still see Larry, I can assure you that he'll be giving it everything he's got. And as you can see now, he's really starting to make inroads, and it's still conceivable that he'll get onto the back of Larry. And I tell you what, if that happens, there'll be a fair bit of fire and brimstone then, because neither of these two, Larry would be the hardest guy in the world to pass. He is like trying to pass a bus in Burnett Lane, I can tell you. He's terrible. But he's got the widest Commodore in the business, and Scaife is one of the young hard chargers, and I tell you what, there's certainly no love lost between them. They'll swap a bit of paint any time.
Yes, they've done that in the past. There's the readout for you at the end of the straight, 213 that time round. I noticed that Alan Jones last time on that very same spot recorded a time of 2:33. Some great new innovations here in Adelaide. There's big screens around the circuit for people so they can get a good look at what's going on. And that speed readout at the end of the main straight has been a great addition. Really lots of additives here, and it is a wonderful package. Believe you me, if you've travelled the circuits that we have around the world, you can be proud of this one.
It's probably one of the best, or without a doubt, the best road circuit as far as a Formula One track goes anywhere in the world, because it's the most, I suppose you would say it is the closest to a proper racing circuit that we've seen on actual city streets. And the difficult thing is to be able to get a layout like this that will give you that sort of effect. Now, not many people would ever think that this was an actual road circuit.
Yes, the streets of Adelaide, of course, been made very famous over the last 9 years now. Well, here's Larry Perkins. He won the Bathurst 1000 this year. A great win, and I mean that the public really got behind him.
Yeah, I think Scaife might be getting a little bit cheesed off with the guy in the other Commodore, because all you need to do is just get held up a fraction of time, and that really sort of puts you a little bit off in your thoughts, and it loses a lot of time for you.
Wayne Gardner past Alan Jones now, so Jonesy goes back one. Gardner moves one step closer. As we watch the local car there of Smearden, Chris Smearden. He's sandwiching the Winfield cars, and Mark Scaife's trying desperately to get in touch with Larry Perkins, so the traffic now will be most important. I think they've got rid of most of it. He's almost got in contact with him now. There's the speed at 2:37.
Well, bear in mind that Scaife and Perkins were the two that had the ding-dong battle for 6.5 hours at Bathurst this year, and Scaife would dearly love to be able to get back at Larry and say, well, at least I beat you at the Adelaide Grand Prix, but right at this point in time, I reckon he's got his work cut out for him.
Mark Scaife to be married in Melbourne next weekend. I've got the honour of ever seeing that. I'm looking forward to that. He's marrying the beautiful Belinda, and that's going to be a heck of a day. A lot of motor racing people will be at that particular wedding next weekend, and he'd love to give her a present of a win of the last season of the year. But Perkins won't be denied, I don't think. Larry, as you said, pretty hard to get through. Looks good. The car looks good too.
Yeah, it's a very well-balanced car. As I said before, Larry's done a fantastic job. You know, prior to Bathurst, he really put an awful lot of time and effort in, and he sorted his chassis out very well indeed. And, like, it's paid dividends for him, because if you get a good chassis, it's going to look after the tyres, and it certainly looks after the guy that's got to steer it, because the difficult thing is when the car starts to go off and your times start to sort of fall away a bit, you've really got to keep pressing on. And when you do that, you have problems like we saw poor old Glenn have, and things like that. And that's, you know, just part and parcel of what the touring cars are.
Vic, the other thing is Larry decided to stay local too, didn't he? He didn't look to the American bits, the Chev bits. He was quite content to stay locally GMH.
Yeah, he certainly did, because Larry is one of these guys that loves to say, well, you know, I did it and I did it my way, and thanks very much, but I don't need your help. I'll do it the way I want to do it. And he's a very autocratic sort of a person, actually, but one hell of a tough competitor. He's very experienced. He's experienced in open wheelers and all forms of motorsport, actually.
Pro Formula One with BRM. Now look at this. You've got the two Winfield cars really coming into contact now. Jimmy Richards all over the back of Mark Scaife. Scaife just can't get into contact with Larry Perkins. He's made up some ground, but he's got a cover for Jimmy too. There's no team orders here. If Jimmy can pip him, he will. There's no doubt about that. They're pretty competitive, the pair of them. They've become very, very good friends, and I think it's one of the better balanced teams in in Australian racing. No doubt about that. Freddie Gibson really is a very professional operator.
Well, it's on the last lap now, Darryl, so I think you'll find that Lowry's got himself covered fairly well, but believe you me, once you get out on the racetrack there's absolutely no love lost between each guy. Like, if I got out there with Bowie, I certainly, I won't give him any ground. I wouldn't give any more ground than I'd give anyone else. So it's one car against the other.
Lowry taking some chances through the track. Scape comes up too. A little bit of a touch there. He's just trying desperately to get in touch with Perkins, and he can't. Larry Perkins holding on. We're on the final lap. Don't forget the big V8s come out to play again tomorrow. So there's another race yet. All the damage will be repaired overnight, and we'll have a full field back on. Although Thomas Mazira's car looked pretty knocked about. I'm not quite sure if that'll make it. But if
no, I think you'll find, Darryl, they'll get that car going for tomorrow, and I think you'll find also that tomorrow being only half the distance of this race, that they'll use different tyres, and you'll find that the lap times will be quicker and the racing will be more fierce, because the simple reason that you've got less time to do it in.
Exactly, 10 laps tomorrow, and let's hope HRT can get Mazira back on the track. It was a pretty hefty bump, but they've done some remarkable work over here. Of course, the TAFE people from South Australia are over here to help in any way they can with helping out keeping the cars on the track, and they've done a great job, as they've done at Bathurst for many years. All right, this race winding down there now. Scaife and Richards will fill second and third. Larry Perkins will take the checkered flag for Castrol. They came in and supported him this year. He's paid them back with wins at Bathurst and a win here in the streets of Adelaide. In they come. Look at this. It wasn't much in it at the end.
And it's Holden's 1, 2, 3, Darryl.
Holden 1, 2 and 3, and Dickie Johnson nearly choked when he said it. Wayne Gardner with a fine drive now will come over for fourth place. Alan Jones will be fifth, and the Shell Racing Team car of Johnny Bauer comes over in sixth spot. Then Peter Brock, the last of the big time runners. There it is, Group A in the streets of Adelaide. Congratulations, Larry Perkins. Great win again. Back shortly.